03. Start your message with WM. Now, it's the autumn statement day, effectively a mini budget where the Chancellor lays out the latest financial rules and regulations. Amongst other things, is expected to announce today a ban on letting fees for people looking for somewhere to rent. So the idea would be that landlords will still be able to pay for the service, but not tenants. Let's speak to Sally Lawson, who runs Lawson's Letting Agents in Wolverhampton. Sally, good morning to you. You're right.
Good morning, Adrian.
This has been a controversial area, hasn't it? Because sometimes people, when they are looking to rent, have to pay a fee and don't feel that they get a good service from a letting agent.
Yeah, it's been a debate that's been trundling on for quite some time, actually, Adrian. I think probably a couple of years, and I think the first time that this came out was probably 2.5 years ago, as to whether letting agents should be allowed to charge tenant fees or not. And we're all very, very surprised by the announcement today that they are actually going to be banning fees straight up. They did actually ban letting agency fees in Scotland in 2012, and it's been interesting some of the results that's come about since that ban in 2012. One of the main results is that the rents have actually increased quite substantially in that area. So that's the fear that we have, that the people that it's actually been set out to help ultimately will actually suffer from this.
So do you charge at the moment at both ends then? If I'm looking for somewhere to live, you would charge me a fee, but you'd also charge a landlord a fee for placing their property in an appropriate place?
That's right. I mean, most letting agents will charge a landlord a fee, but then they'll charge a tenant's fee as well. So it's like the tenants are contributing towards the cost. It's quite a lengthy process in setting up a tenancy. I know some of the press releases going out there have been that all we do is merely photocopy a piece of paper, and I've welcomed these people to come into offices and see what we actually do. It takes over 17 hours to create a tenancy. You see, what's happened here is this is coming in at the back end of various pieces of legislation that have hit the private rented sector over the last couple of years, which has increased the legislation, the complexity, the amount of work that has to be done to get a tenant moved into a property, which now, as I say, it's over 17 hours of work involved in getting a tenancy right, get the tenancy agreements drawn up, get the safety checks done, get all the deregulation bill stuff sorted, make sure that everything is exactly as it should be to keep the tenant, the landlord, the tenancy safe and running coherently, which means that work has to be done. It can't not be done, it has to be done.
But if that work has to be done, what's unreasonable about the landlord bearing all the costs? Because even if you're a legitimate letting agent, that's one thing. You'll know there are people out there who maybe extract the you-know-what from people who want to rent a place, maybe charge fees, then don't deliver on the service, or don't deliver a professional service. If the landlord has to pay the fee, surely the respectable letting agents will still stay in business.
Yeah, and that's what's happened in Scotland. The fees have been transferred to the landlords, and obviously the landlords have done what all they can do really is increase the rents, and that's what we fear here, that obviously by changing that fee, that it's not a tenant fee, it's now a landlord fee. That fee has to be paid because that work has to be done, staff have to be paid for the work that they do, which means that the landlords are going to bear that cost. But let's not forget that right now landlords are suffering from the stamp duty increases for buying second homes. They've got the Clause 24 tax increases, which some landlords are having an effective tax rate of 99%. They're going to have to pass this cost on, and there's only one direction it's going to go, and that's going to be rent.
At the moment, how much would a landlord pay, roughly? How much would a tenant pay to use your service?
There's a huge variance depending across the country as to what landlords would pay. A landlord would pay typically around £350, £400 to let a property a tenant. The average across the country is around £202 for tenants' fees. So you're probably looking at about £600 roughly as a setup fee for the whole.
But if the tenant's portion of that is, let's say, £200, it's spread over a year, that's £4 a week. And if they stay longer in the property, then they're not having to pay that fee again. Any landlord who is charging more than £4 a week extra, as it were, and blaming it on the letting fee, they're telling porkies, aren't they?
Well, it'd be interesting to see what actually happens, Adrian. As I say, in Scotland there's been an increase of over 4% in rent, which, depending on what the average rent in your particular area, around here it's around £550, £600 as an average rent. That's still quite a substantial increase, so it will be interesting to see how that works out.
It's not going to put you out of business, is it?
No, it's not going to put us out of business, but certainly there'll be some meetings, there'll be some changes to structure, obviously lots of conversations with our clients, and there's going to be a lot to do.
But you feel that ultimately, although this has been done to make life fairer for tenants, it will actually make life more expensive?
That's our fear. It's the fear that obviously the rents will increase, and they'll increase more than they need to. And that is the challenge.
Really appreciate your time this morning. That's Sally Lawson, who runs Lawson's Letting Agents in Wolverhampton, 7:22 on BBCWM.